What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Clocks on the Stove. Usual host, myself, Grayson Fisher, Roland, Big Meech, Foerster, and today's guest we got Zach Watts hopping on, Boston Red Sox, New England Patriots fan. Maybe some controversy today, maybe not. Let's just dive on into
Oh
it.
God.
So I saw this on Twitter, and I thought it doesn't really have to do too much with like anything we're going to talk about. I just think it's kind of funny to bring up. It's NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell made nearly $128 million via salary, bonuses, and benefits over past 2 fiscal years. That's said by the New York Times. Just it's funny going on with all the stuff right now with the Gruden and the Washington football team and all this stuff, and like how in the past couple podcasts we're talking about how it's all drive about money, and then you see a number like this, and it's like it's actually insane how much money this man is making.
Yeah. Not only that, I mean, I was looking into it because you want to make the NFL the biggest cash cow you can if you're the owner of it, obviously. So looking at that, wouldn't you try to view like different streaming options? I mean, we got one interview, or we had one person say that they like different like camera angles for games. Well, if you look into it, like Skycam and Spider-Cam footage, where like you get different sideline views of the game, only costs the NFL annually like $5 to $10 million to set up. So I mean, if you want to get more out of your cash cow, you should probably put more into it. And then outside streaming, still have lack of proper officiating, got unbalanced overtime rules still, and then the replay system still flawed. We don't have enough camera angles to cover everything. So I mean, there's a lot of things he could probably be doing with his money, but I mean, it was interesting to see that he's raking in that much at the end of the day.
And who knows?
Mean, how much did you expect for him to make? I mean,
Yeah.
I thought it would be at least, 128 million is kind of insane, but I thought he was making at least $100 million. You know what I mean? He's the commissioner of the NFL. He's got other. Did they say that was his salary just from NFL money?
It said was salary, bonuses, and benefits. So
so those bonuses could be, whatever sponsors he has or whatever, his side money. But
yeah, and I bet there is some money also he makes on top of that through like endorsements and stuff that's not added in there also.
Exactly. Well, I don't think anyone's endorsing Roger Goodell. Everyone hates him. But
it's like a commercial or something, they got to pay him revenue for that.
You ever seen a commercial with Roger Goodell in it?
I stand corrected.
Yeah, what company would pay him? But yeah, I mean, it's a $2 billion company, probably more now. And what would you expect the CEO to make? You know what I mean? So,
yeah. I just, like I said, I wasn't like anything that was like, whoa. It was just like, it's kind of cool to see, like it was cool to see how much money they actually know how much money he was making.
Yeah, I hear you.
We got Calvin Ridley steps away from football. We don't know his return table. Obviously, the Falcons.
I wouldn't say steps away from football, but sorry. Go ahead.
Good. So it's to focus on his mental well-being. He said he didn't play in the last game. He was actually not having a terrible year. He had a lot of hype. Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to elaborate on that. It's just they don't think he's coming back this season for sure.
It's kind of complicated because when it comes like as a professional athlete, I feel like the money you're paid, you're expected to be on the field, barring an injury. Now we've kind of shifted to where like we've noticed more athletes take precautions and steps away to protect their mental health, and that's not a knock on them at all. Obviously, we're all humans at the end of the day. We all go through our individual problems, but it's hard to really talk about situations like this because at some point you want to know like what's hindering them so you could possibly help in any way you can from an organization's perspective, but like you can't really find that out without revealing a lot of details to the public. And I think the biggest thing for these players is you want to let them just have their privacy and take the time they need so they can get back to playing the best of their ability. But at the same time, like how, like in the future, are you going to sign players with known mental issues? Like, are you going to want to take in guys that are going to need some time off or like might not even be mentally have the mental capacity to play week in and week out? Like that's just a part that we don't know right now. And as it becomes a more prevalent issue, I think we'll start to see more contracts that invoke mental health issues that talk about like all right, like it's fine if you take the time off, but are they going to put a cap on it? Can they even, like, who's to say how long and how severe these, I wouldn't really call them injuries, but it kind of is like, it takes them to the sideline. It takes them out of playing the game. So it obviously has effect on not only themselves, but the teams they wear their jersey for.
Yeah, and also on top of that, like you were saying, you got a guy like Calvin Ridley, and he's going through some stuff, and he doesn't want people to know about it. Like, that's really hard to go to practice every day, go to the games, go to post practice interviews, locker room interviews, media, ESPN, all that, and then having to do this fake face because you don't want people to know there's an issue. And then when you come out to this organization, like, look, I know I wasn't showing you there's an issue because I didn't want anyone to know about it, but there's an issue. Then you find out there's an issue. So what you want to do is you want to give this guy his own time, let him be by himself, let him sit. But now media's just up his ass and they want to know the issue. They want to know more. They want to know more. They want to know more. Which is going to kind of, I don't know where I'm going with this, but like what I'm trying to say is like, it kind of defeats the purpose. Calvin really has some stuff going on. He needs to be by himself. He needs to be left alone. But the opposite is happening. And they're just drilling him. The media wants to know. Everyone wants to know what's going on with Calvin Ridley, what's going on with Calvin Ridley. And it's like that kind of defeats the whole purpose of him needing to take time off. You know, it's like, is he even going to get fully better? Or is he going to rush it because they're forcing him? You know, I don't really know what's going on, but I'm just saying that's my personal opinion on it. It's just funny, like you're saying, like he went to them telling them, I don't want to give you too much information. I need my time. And now everyone wants all the information, you know?
Yeah, who knows what he's going on? Maybe he's a drug addict or, who knows? But yeah, it's kind of like, let's say he is a drug addict. I'm not saying he is, but maybe it's something like that. And, it's kind of hard to like come out and say, look, I need to put my football career on hold. And, it's like, if you need the help, you have to go get the help. But, I mean, same thing with, I know we'll probably get to him later, but Henry Ruggs, maybe he had a problem with alcohol or drugs and, he didn't want to say anything because he's young. He's got $1 million career. And, it's kind of hard to feel bad for these guys that they're millionaires and they're pro athletes and, to say they drink too much but, you never know what's going on in someone's head and shit's serious. So,
But yeah,
that should be prevented, but it's still stigmatized and you don't want that coming out in the media that, oh, Henry Ruggs is alcoholic. He's going to rehab in week 4. He's quitting on the team, but.
yeah, too, and like what Zach was saying, like, now the mental health is becoming such a more well-known and well-accepted thing amongst males. It's like you're gonna get guys that are like, I have a mental issue now and I want to commit to this team, but I'm scared that they're gonna change my contract for it, or I'm scared they're gonna put all this money on me and then dangle it over my head. Am I gonna have to play knowing I have issues going on? Like, there's so many factors that get involved with it too. I feel like especially when it's a non-physical injury. Because when you tear your ACL, it doesn't matter. The team's not going to make you play. They can't make you play. Your ACL.
Right.
But if you have a psychological issue and you're a grown adult, like Calvin Ridley is, and he's played at the highest level at Alabama, he's playing the highest level in the NFL, and you acknowledge, look, there's something so serious in my mental problem that I know I can't perform at what you need me to perform at. You got to give me a break. It's like, all right, yeah, the Falcons are cool with it, but what if someone else on another team has the same issue and they're not cool with it? There's so many things that this is a recent thing that just started that we're still in the learning stages of how professional athletes and organizations are going to handle it, I feel like.
But it's new as to society is like looking at it, but people have always had mental illness since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just more prevalent because of how we live and, we have smartphones. We're all addicted to our phones and fast-paced society. And it's just it's a different time that we're living in.
And regardless of my opinion on what I'm about to say, it is factual, I believe, that the Simone Biles case is what really got athletes like, all right, I'm not the only one out there, And like I said, I'm not saying I agree with what she did. I'm not saying I disagree with what she did. My opinion on it is irrelevant. I'm just saying what she did definitely opened up the door for a lot more people to be comfortable admitting they have a problem that needs to be fixed. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, and I think that was a big thing too, is she pretty much opened the door for everyone to kind of be able to discuss having mental issues while being an athlete. I mean, she's regarded as one of the best at what she does.
Ever.
And some people had ridicule and some people had the utmost support for her. And either way, I think these athletes are doing what's best for them at the end of the day, regardless of what people think. I mean, I know as a fan, you might be angry about her. You might not be the happiest about them stepping away, depending on what time it be. I mean, these people can take a step away during week 1 or the preseason, or they could be stepping away from the game in the middle of a playoff game. Like no mental issues, just gonna pick and choose when they choose to affect these people. It's not something that they can hold off on or decide like, oh, I'm not going to let it affect me right now. I'm going to let it affect me later. We have no control over that. So I think the biggest thing is to just take it in stride. And I mean, this is really like, we're so early into seeing this stuff. Like this has only been around for like 1 to 2 years. Before then, you wouldn't really hear about it, but I feel like the more we become accustomed to it, the more it'll be accepted, and not only accepted, but we'll know what to do moving forward. I just think we don't know what to do right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like back in the day, it was like, oh, you have a mental issue, you're soft. You know, it's like that's not how it is. You know, and that, yeah, like you said, it's something that we're getting. Some are getting new to.
Simone Biles sitting out. It's like the equivalent of LeBron James sitting out in the finals, like the best gymnast in the world sitting out at the highest level. So I mean, that takes some guts in it of itself, and you know, for her to sit out like that. It's kind of, I mean, she's not really getting paid for it, first of all. So, but it's still equivalent to a guy that's overworked and he's having panic attacks at his job and they want him to perform at a high level and he needs to take a leave of absence. It's kind of the same thing. You know, if she's not right there and she's having panic attacks right before she steps out and she's afraid she's going to have a bad performance, why would she go out there?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And the thing, too, is like Zach was saying, I'm gonna like try to compare the two together as best as I can, but like Calvin Ridley was one of the best wide receivers in his high school and cross country, one of the best wide receivers in college cross country, and he was one of the best. He's one of the best young receivers in the NFL. Simone Biles is arguably one of the best gymnastics to ever compete. Ever. So if these two athletes who are arguably at the peak of their sport, the highest they can compete, are saying, "I know what it takes to compete at this level." And I know at the state I'm in, I can't do that. I need to step away. You know, you got to give them some respect because especially when they're at that caliber, like you talk about the work, all right? Like someone with work, Meech, it's like, yeah, they can take a day or two off. The business will be fine. Calvin really takes a day or two off. There's money lost. He's an investment. He has $1 million contract. You know, so that obviously weighs the mental issue even more, I feel like, knowing that there's so much more because like, you know you need that rest, but you don't want to let these people down. You don't want to lose your contract. You don't want to lose your job. You have a child you have to pay for. You know, like I feel like that also that intensity of it and the intensity of the Simone Biles thing of being the first ever to have like 4 or 5 gold medals or something. She was about to win a record. You know, like it's the intensity of those moments. I feel like make it even harder for these athletes, which is something we don't think about when we think about they're millionaires. They make all this money, blah blah. Like, yeah, they do, but then that also means every move they make is so much more important. You know.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah, but moving on from that, next up is probably one of the biggest things that happened in this past week, NFL-wise. Rams getting Von Miller for 2 second-day 2022 draft picks. So I'm going to let Zach start us off with this, but I was going into this saying that the Rams had the best defense in the NFL, but Zach had some facts to spit at me earlier that I wanted to spit out again for everyone else.
Yeah, so I mean, at first looking at it, I agreed, but I just wanted to look up some statistical evidence to back it up. But the Rams right now are 21st in total defense overall. We're looking at 7th overall in points allowed. I think just like Carolina and Green Bay is. They've allowed 109 or 111.9 rush yards per game, which ranks 15th, so they're about middle of the pack. And then they're allowing 262 pass yards per game, which ranks 21st. So obviously you can accredit this to the strength of schedule they played. I know they've run into the Cardinals, the Bucks. They played some really high caliber offenses, and adding Von Miller is obviously going to help that. You're going to take some attention off of Aaron Donald on that line. It's obviously going to boost the pass rush, which will in turn help the secondary out a little bit more. I mean, even though you have Jalen Ramsey back there, like, oh yeah, forgot about you have a top 2 corner sitting over there on an island, but they definitely aren't playing up to the caliber that we see on paper. When you look at this team on paper, you expect them to pitch 10-point games every time. Like the defense or the offense might put up a touchdown and a field goal on them, and then you're going to trust Matthew Stafford to go out there and just cook. That's what you brought him in for, and that's what they're doing now. I think right now they only have like 1 or 2 draft picks left for next year's draft. I mean, they literally sold out. They are literally, the chips are on the table, and they're going for it all. And honestly, I wouldn't blame them. You got an aging quarterback that you traded for. You have some young talent, but not really your guys on your roster really in their prime. So if there's a time to do it, it's now. But they definitely took the steps they needed to in order to put them in the best position possible.
It gives me like a similar. Oh, I'm sorry, Meech, you go.
I was just going to say the Rams are the perfect example of a team that can sign and buy and trade their way to the top. Like you said, I think they have 1 4th-round pick and 1 7th-round pick. Like, that's insane. I mean, it's probably worth it. They have Super Bowl hopes. I'd say they're top 3 in the league. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of boom or bust for them, big time, especially getting Von Miller. But that's crazy. I didn't know that about the defense. I thought they were top notch, but these guys are towards the back end of their career, Von Miller, and but Aaron Donald, it's crazy. That defense should be number 1 in the league. They are on paper. So, maybe Von Miller goes in there and he's the extra piece they need, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's what was crazy to me, because like when I got the notification, I was like, all right, they're the best defense in the NFL now. And I was talking to Zach about it, and he was like, I thought the same thing, and then I looked into it, and they really aren't the best defense in the NFL. This scenario with the Rams and their draft picks, though, and like putting all their eggs in the basket, as some would say, it gives me a very familiar feeling with last season's Saints, how they just sent everything they had to winning that Super Bowl. I feel like the Rams are doing the same thing. They're letting Sean McVay over there get everything he needed, everything he asked for, and they're like, look, man, this is your year. Like, you got to get it done. Do I think they can? Yeah, but it's football, dude. Anybody can beat anybody. Who knows who's going to win the Super Bowl?
I think another big thing is on the other side of that trade, if you're a Broncos fan, because I know I'm not, but you've had Von Miller be on your team your entire life. That's what you've seen. Now you're literally giving him up for 2 mid-round picks.
Yeah.
I know he's towards the end of the career, but for what he's done for your team, like, don't you think he should have been able to walk away under his own terms? Obviously, if a trade had to happen, he would obviously want it to help the team he's leaving the best as possible. I don't know if you guys saw, but he sent a personal thank you video to literally everyone in the organization once he found out he was traded. That's how much that team meant to him. And I know the fan base meant a lot to him as well. So, it's sad to see him go away like that. And then especially for the Broncos, I feel like, I don't know if you could have gotten more out of it. I don't know with him on that back end of his career, how much you'd be able to get out for him. But just to see it go down like that, it's not what you want, especially for a guy like that and a team and a guy that's done that much for your team.
Yeah, but we were saying about the two mid draft round picks, the 2 mid-round draft picks. It's like, yeah, they could be good, but you have they could be bust, they could get injured. You have no idea. At least with keeping Von Miller, all right, he might not be the best like he used to be, but for a fact he's not going to be terrible. You know what I mean? There's a sense of like trust and knowledge, knowing that you're going to have that comfortability, I would say. That you don't get that with draft picks. You never know with draft pick. You never know.
Yeah, that's another thing I've noticed about people trading for draft picks. Like, I always say, if a proven player is good, like for whatever round you drafted them in, I don't understand swapping them for other first rounds. Because you might see the talent in that guy coming in, but I know this guy I got's proven. I know what I'm getting out of this guy. He's proven the NFL production. This guy could literally come out of college as the greatest thing since sliced bread and not perform at all. I just don't understand where we got this sudden value and appreciation for draft picks. Talent's getting better. Talent always gets better through the years, but in today's age, I don't know. I'm not understanding it as much.
No, I know what you mean. I think draft picks are valued. It seems like draft picks are valued so high compared to players. Sometimes, like you'll see some players that you think, oh, you think he would get traded for at least a second round pick, and he'll go for a sixth. Trying to think of an example, but a lot of good players will just go on and get traded for sixth round draft picks or seventh round draft picks. A lot of it has to do with the contract and the money. I'm curious to see what Von Miller's contract looks like. Like, is he on the last year of his deal, or because I'm not sure what the deal is with that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. I do agree though. Draft picks are becoming way more valuable thing. I also wonder if the effect of their college hype train has something to do with it too. Because I remember like a big reason why Jacksonville wanted Tim Tebow was because purely off of hype. Purely off of knowing if he was there, people were they're gonna get asses in seats. So I feel like that's another reason why, college football players today entering the NFL are way more followed and way more popularized and publicized than they were when our dads were in college. So that definitely could be an issue, a reason for it as well. Moving on, we're gonna
Wait, just back to Von Miller's contract. So that's why they got rid of him. He signed a 6-year, $114 million contract back in 2017 or 2015, but he's an unrestricted free agent in 2022. So that's why they got rid of him.
Heard that. Next up, we got Jameis Winston suffers a torn ACL. He's out for the season. Crazy, but the Saints go on to still defeat the Bucs without Winston, 36-27. Correct me if I get his last name wrong. Trevor Siemian, is that correct? That's how I say it?
Yep.
He went 16 for 29. First game ever starting in the NFL. 16 for 29, 159 yards and a touchdown to defeat the returning Super Bowl champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
No, that wasn't his first game starting. He started on the Jets last year and tore his ACL.
So starting for a real team in the NFL, it was his first start.
He started for the Broncos too, so fuck off, bud.
Yeah, no, but it's just cool to see, like, because I remember we talked to Charles Small about it last week, and he was like, Saints are going to win. It's a divisional game. And I was like, yeah, okay, Charles. And then he texted me right after the game, like, you see that?
Yeah, it's interesting to see because since Tom Brady's come to the Bucs, I think they're like 20-3 or 20-4 against everyone else, but against the Saints, they're 1-3. So it's either got to be the interdivision rivalry that they have that's just making these competitive games. Because on paper, it looked like Bucs should have cakewalked the Saints. I mean, I love Jameis. It was sad to see him go away from the Bucs since he's from Florida State, but I mean, the dude's hit or miss. I mean, you're the only 30-30 guy ever. You really don't know what we're getting out of you. And this team counted on you to follow up what Drew Brees did for so long. And the fact he looked good starting off, and then Simeon came in and filled his part. I think the biggest takeaway from the game, though, would definitely be that defense still wins championships. I don't care how many people you have on offense. If you are giving up 34 points a game, people are going to have a game plan to stop you 2 to 3 drives a game. And then Saints had the perfect game plan for it. Kept the score low early in the game, ran the ball a lot, tried to slow the tempo down to where you're within 1 or 2 scores going into halftime. And because of turnovers, actually went into halftime leading. And then you just had to hold the pace, get pressure with 4, and then hope to find your way into some turnovers. We saw the game sealing pick 6, which shocked me. I mean, usually you think Tom Brady 2-minute drill, you're walking away with a win in that situation, but obviously ball doesn't roll your way every time. But I think the Saints now, that was a must-win game looking forward. I mean, you don't have Winston anymore. You're going to have to try your best to work with what you can in your division. You can probably steal some from Carolina and Atlanta. But if they want to keep their playoffs hopes alive, Trevor Siemian's got to be the man. Got to step up.
Side note to Tom Brady and the Saints in 2011 when the Saints were on that undefeated run. I don't know if you remember that. I went to the Saints-Patriots game at the Superdome, and on Monday Night Football, and the Saints smacked Tom Brady in the Patriots. So, fuck Tom Brady, and he historically sucks against the Saints at the Superdome. So, he can go fuck himself.
All right. Moving on from that, we got Derrick Henry suffers potential season-ending foot injury. How crazy is that, by the way? Man's looking at one of the best seasons in NFL history, killing it this year, and then he's
Insane.
gone. First McCaffrey, and then Henry, bro. Like what? And Saquon, like what is going on with running backs?
What this shows me is that you cannot rely on a running back dominant team if you're looking to build a dynasty. We're obviously in a heavier pass league anyway, but we've showed that players like Derrick Henry can still dominate, but that's only if they're staying healthy. We just we play one more single season game now. We're up to 17, counting playoffs and preseason. Like, never anymore you're going to see a 4-down back. You're going to see teams that rotate running backs. They've got a guy that can receive. They've got a guy that can run through the gaps, and they've got a guy that can run to the outside. You're just not going to see teams rely on these all-around dominant backs. I mean, we thought Zeke was going to be it. He's still really talented, but he just can't handle that much workload when teams are coming at him. Same thing with Dalvin Cook. Like, Dalvin Cook's great when he can stay on the field. Like, dude just getting injured. And then now you have Derrick Henry, who literally looks like the Hulk when he's out there, just stiff arming people through the dirt like they don't exist. But even him, he's prone to injuries. I mean, looking at the Titans team now, if you look at them without Derrick Henry, are they even a strong playoff team? Like, do you have them going to the championship game? Do you have them make it to the Super Bowl? Like, probably not. I think that division's easily up for grabs. Obviously, you got the Jags in there, so they don't really matter. But, I mean, it's anyone's ball game. You can't really count on a running back anymore. I mean, I love running backs, but you're not getting much value out of them these days.
I mean, I don't think that. If anything, you can count on running backs, but just the game is different. Like 20 years ago, they would hand the ball off. Like Derrick Henry's carries were normal. All they did was run the ball back in the 90s and the early 2000s before we really went, pass heavy in the NFL. But I mean, it's really just the game has changed, and the Titans, they did feed Derrick Henry the ball way too much. This was kind of, I wouldn't say foreseen, because you just think of Derrick Henry as invincible, but, you give the guy the ball 35, 40 times a game sometimes, like he's going to go down. But, yeah, that is a huge blow for Tennessee. Tannehill is trash. And, yeah, I don't. That's crazy. I don't even know what you say. You just closed the book on their season, eh?
Yeah, I agree. But something that I've said in previous episodes we've had is I've always been a huge believer of a double running back. I believe that if you're a Division I football program, if you're a college football program in general, regardless of your division, or if you're an NFL team, I believe that having one starting running back is a waste of time. I just think you need two running backs. I think you need a power guy and a speed guy. It changes the dynamic. It keeps two more fresher guys, and it keeps the longevity and duration of their careers. There's no reason that a guy like a running back should be getting 50 to 60 touches in a game in the NFL. You can easily split that in half. They can still get great stats and be a great key player and be an all-pro. They can still do all of that, but they're going to play 4 more extra seasons. You know what I mean? And they're going to provide more to your team. And when they're in the fourth quarter, they're not gassed from taking their 50th handoff. They're fresh. I've always been a believer of it. If you watch OG Wisconsin back with Russell Wilson, we had Monty Ball with James White, then we had James White with Melvin Gordon. That's Melvin Gordon with Corey Clement. The best years of that. Look at Alabama. They used to run double running backs. If you look at teams that are successful, you got to have double running backs. And the thing with the Titans and the thing with the Panthers and the Giants, they invested so much in Saquon, and they invested so much in McCaffrey and in Derrick Henry that they couldn't even afford another running back to equal out with them because they already had so much invested in this guy.
I mean, those guys are like the guys to do it, though. Like Christian McCaffrey's a guy you could have on every down.
Yeah, but are they though? Because they're not showing that they are, because they're always getting hurt.
That's the downside to it, You give them, like you said, 40, 50 touches a game, they're going down. But I don't know. How could you not play Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey on every down if he's healthy? But I don't know. There's got to be better management instead of just hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, throw a screen to Christian McCaffrey every single play.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Zach, you best say
I think another thing was they end up signing Adrian Peterson to come in, which would have been scary in like 2010. But you're bringing in an older back who's I get what they're trying to do. You want a guy that's something similar, someone you can run in between the tackles, be burly, get some yards after contact. Like I get it, but I feel like you got to find someone a little younger than that and a little still more in their prime to get that done. You're just looking at someone that really towards the end of the career that you could sign for cheap really doesn't help you out at all. I don't really understand the move. Didn't really feel like the best fit. And especially now, before the season, you brought in Julio Jones so you could take some attention off of Derrick Henry, but he can't stay on the field either. You're bringing in a lot of older guys that are still trying to prove themselves, but they're not going to be able to stay on the field. So I just don't get what direction you're trying to take the team in, unless you're just praying they come back for like one more season where they can figure it out. But I feel like they need to rethink their free agency signings.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, AP, what do you expect from him? I mean, I can't believe he could still walk. Dude's had 2 ACLs and whatever. He's had a lot of injuries. And they're just hoping a guy that can come in and kind of mimic what Derrick Henry can do. He's obviously not going to be anything like Derrick Henry, but he's still a guy that could come in there and get some handoffs for him.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully everything, like, I'm not wishing anything on Derrick Henry. I hope everything's the best for him. I hope all these running backs come back. I enjoy watching all of them. Sucks to see. It's just usually as a proving point that I think you should run 2 running backs. Next thing is kind of I think the craziest is so a couple days ago, Odell Beckham Sr. posted on his Instagram a whole 12-minute YouTube video of all the times throughout his Browns career that Baker Mayfield didn't throw to his son when he was open. Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski said the Browns have told Odell Beckham Jr. to stay at home. He was told to leave practice today and stay at home. And as of currently, they are now finding a way to get rid of Odell. They no longer want him, and they no longer want him on their team. I want to know what y'all's thoughts are on it before I give mine.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know the trade deadline just passed, and obviously there were offers on the table. I know they had a call from the Saints and another team trying to figure out potential landing spots. But even if you can't find like a great deal for Odell, that's still a quality player that you can turn around for either some picks or something to fill holes in your chart, especially on the Browns. I mean, you're dealing with a lot. You already got Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb dealing with injuries. Odell is obviously not happy, so he blunts out. But then to not land a trade for him and then turn around and cut him, you make no profit off that at all. You're essentially just said like, yeah, we won't accept anything you want, but anyone can come take them if they'd like. Like, I just don't really see the thought process going through for this. And then as of recently, Stefanski said, yeah, he's no longer with the team. I just don't get what these managers are doing with these players after they cut them. Like, I get you can't find a great deal for him, but find the best deal possible at least. Like, get something out of it. Help your team at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have an opinion on it. I'm gonna pass.
I just think it's who's in the wrong here? Is it the Browns or is it Odell? Is it Baker or is it Odell? That's my biggest head frustration. Who's in the wrong?
I think it's just a stupid thing for your dad to come out and say some stupid shit like that. But he didn't get traded. It's all a bunch of hoopla, and I don't think anything's going to happen. I saw something that said that they wanted to keep him, and they had no plans of trading him, which they didn't. So I don't know. I think he'll stay with the Browns. It's just a dad coming out and saying some stupid crap.
I think if you're Odell, yeah, you do have the right to be a little upset if there's that many times that Baker Mayfield is, overthrowing you or messed up. All right, you have the right to be mad. You're a wide receiver. Your whole career is based off of him getting you the ball. I understand that. But at the same time, since I hit 6th grade, my father sat me down my first day of middle school football practice, he said, Grayson, you are now old enough that if you have any problems with your coach, if you have any problems with the team, if anything at all, you will talk to your coach yourself. You are old enough, you will do this. And since 6th grade, when I was 12 years old, if I ever had a problem with my wrestling coach, my MMA instructor, my football coach, I was no longer allowed to have my parents talk to them. And this is a grown-ass man playing in the NFL. And this is what he's doing? He's having his dad write little complaints on Instagram. Come on, dude. Like, Odell should sit down with Baker, sit down with the coach, sit down whoever they feel most comfortable talking with, communicating with, and they sit down like grown-ass men and they talk it through. You don't have your dad. That's petty, bro. That's child shit. I disagree with it 100%.
And back to what you said about the blame falling on someone. I really just think this is one of those times where you have a player in a team that just isn't on the same page. I think the type of player that Odell is, what they thought they could have made him was great for the scheme in which Cleveland was running. I mean, they're one of the most effective play action passing teams in the league, and you have Odell that not only has great route running, but he's got the speed to get open deep. I thought Baker would have loved that when he first came over, but they're just not seeing eye to eye, whether that be they're not getting the right reads, they're not hitting the right depths on their progressions. Something's just not clicking between the two, and I think it's time for Odell to move on for another team because I still think he has a lot to prove in the league. When he came in, he was literally one of the most exciting rookies I think we've ever seen. I mean, immediately put on the Madden cover when he came in 16. This dude had hype, and to see him kind of fall off like this, I really don't think it's his fault. I mean, I know he's gone through injuries, but I still think he's got a lot that if he went to the right team, he could still be a big time player.
Yeah, I agree with all that. That's just one of those things that's kind of like, I feel like it's a personal belief thing. Something that was kind of crazy too is the Dolphins did not trade for Deshaun Watson before deadline, which is something that I really thought was going to happen. What do you guys think about this? I thought that they for sure were going to want Deshaun. I kept reading everything about Deshaun, and then they just didn't even go out there to get Deshaun.
I mean, every single week we'd see, Deshaun Watson and Dolphins close to making a deal every single week, and it never happened. I didn't think it was going to happen after they reported it for the second time. The first time I was a little scared when they said that. There's just too much going on, and it's so risky. Let's say the Dolphins, what would they have to give up? 2-3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson? He's almost like priceless. And the Texans, look at how bad they are without him. They're willing to just hold on to him. He's an investment. He's still young. And, if let's say everything works out in his favor, which I don't see that happening really, and the Texans still have a franchise quarterback, why give him away when they could just hold him down,
He still has a job and John Gruden doesn't. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, that's because Deshaun Watson hasn't been convicted of anything. I mean, he really doesn't have a job. He's not playing.
Making money, though.
True, but if he was any worse of a player, if he wasn't a top 3 quarterback, he would not be on the Texans. That's for darn sure. The only reason he still has a job at all is because he's that good.
So therefore, what you're saying is his actions that he did of breaking the law are okay because of how good of a caliber quarterback he is.
I never said they were okay. I'm saying that's why he has a job.
Saying in the eyes of the NFL, or the Texans at least.
I mean, you don't think so?
No, I completely agree.
The backup defensive tackle on the Cardinals got 50 hand jobs from different masseuses. You think he'd have a job? The backup D tackle? Absolutely not.
No, but I'm just trying to make a point that this baseline law of we condone bad stuff, that doesn't exist. Your caliber of who you are can get you through things in the NFL.
Duh.
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make. Now, easily the most talked about, craziest subject of the week, Henry Ruggs, man. Henry Ruggs facing DUI charges in deadly Las Vegas crash at 3 a.m. He was drunk driving in Las Vegas, reported to be going 156 miles per hour before the accident. Airbags deployed at 121 miles per hour. The thing that's crazy, he survived The woman in the other vehicle died, but she did not die on impact, as Zach was letting me know before this. She actually died through suffocation and burning in the car because it collapsed on her, which just makes it that much more worse. And then I find out today that the NFL has a driving service in your city for NFL players in every single NFL team location. You are
And
Henry. Look, I like going back real quick before you go, Meech. Like, yeah, he could have some mental issues. He could have drinking problems. He had all these issues. I completely agree. I don't know what he's going on with, but there's no excuse for driving. I don't care what. There's no excuse. You can afford an Uber. You can afford a Lyft. You have a free driving service because you are an NFL football player. There's no reason to be driving. The drinking, okay, maybe, but not driving. There's literally not a single excuse for driving.
especially going 156 miles an hour in your Corvette down the Las Vegas Strip at 4 a.m. I mean, dude, he's just a young guy that's stupid with a lot of money, and you make one mistake like that. Let me hop in my Corvette after I got drunk at the casino. I mean, first of all, it must be hard living in Las Vegas as an NFL player, millionaire. You're 22. But that's still no excuse. I'm not trying to make excuses for him. It's fucked up. I mean, we all make mistakes, but his, he happened to, get into an accident that resulted in someone dying, which makes it a lot worse. So, it's unfortunate, but he's going to definitely learn a big lesson from that,
Yeah, and I
But
agree
it's
that
unfortunate someone have to die for him to learn that lesson.
real quick before you go, Zach, just to piggyback off what you said, I do agree. Being an NFL player in Las Vegas would be difficult. It'd be extremely difficult. It'd be a lot harder than being an NFL player in Green Bay. It'd be a lot harder than being an NFL player in Minnesota. But that excuses the partying. That doesn't excuse drunk driving. It doesn't excuse the driving aspect. That's the whole point. Regardless of what team you play for, where you are in the country, if you are an NFL player or any pro athlete of that stature, why are you getting behind the wheel? Like, there's no reason.
Yeah, I think with a situation like this, you just gotta try to take away the lessons from it. I mean, obviously, we wish the best for the family that was impacted from the accident. You hate to see something like that, but for players growing up, you gotta look at this and see even if you have all the talent in the world, you got to be able to work on yourself on the field and off the field. Like, you got to be in complete self-control throughout your life, because you're a role model to a ton of people. I mean, there are eyes on you at any given point in a day, overviewing your every action, trying to debate whether it's right or wrong. You really don't have a lot of room for mistakes, especially in the public's eye. And I think for something like this to occur, I mean, it's just really sad, especially for how talented he was. Just to know that an incident like this, especially of his caliber, I mean, you feel like you should be smart enough not to do that. Like, when it crosses your mind, like, you would think like, oh, drunk driving. Yeah, I would never do that. But I mean, these are things that happen every day. Like, someone thinks they're good enough to drive, and end of the day, you wake up, someone's not alive anymore. So you got to live with it. And hopefully moving forward, people can look at this and realize how serious drunk driving is, because even the best in the world do it, and they won't get away with it, and anyone can get hurt.
Yeah, and it's just sad because, like, we were talking, me, Meech, and Zach were talking before the podcast started. Like, all these people, when it happened, were like, "Oh man, my fantasy team's screwed. I'm a Raiders fan. Our season's screwed." Blah blah blah. It's like, going back to these being human beings and not just professional athletes that we were talking about earlier. It's like, dude, someone just lost their life. Like a man just lost. A woman lost her life to death, and then a young man is about to lose a very good amount of his life for a sentence. Like, sports are gone at this point. There's no I'm a Raiders fan. There's no he's on my that's gone. Like, this is a serious issue, regardless of the stature of the individual. And that's a problem today I feel like with sports, is people forget they're human beings. And that's a thing you see a lot. We talked about it with the Tennessee fans throwing stuff on this at the game against Ole Miss. You see with people throwing stuff at LeBron. Like, people forget, like, these are still human beings. They're fathers, they're brothers, they're role models, they're coaches. Like, they still have families. Like, they are human beings. And then It's just sad, man. It's really sad. It's really sad. Next up, I got something that's not that crazy. I don't even know, honestly, why. I wrote it down. Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas out for the season. He basically was already out for the season. He didn't do anything this year. So finishing up with NFL, Aaron Rodgers tested positive for COVID-19. Will not be in the Chiefs game. Do we think that the Chiefs might get this win now?
Jordan Love time, baby. It's time to prove a shot. I mean, you literally got brought in under similar circumstances that Aaron got brought in. Aaron, when he came in, was supposed to be this prodigy to Favre, be this all perennial. Look how he turned out. So obviously they're trying the same thing with Jordan Love. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to know your worth in your player. I mean, he's been under him. Is this still his rookie year, second year?
It's his second year.
Might be his third year.
It's second or third. He's not a rookie. Yeah, he's not a rookie.
So, I mean, given that, I mean, you had to find his worth at some point, and this is the time to do it. You got a struggling Chiefs secondary that obviously isn't defending very well. You stood up big last week against the Cardinals. I mean, one of the highest scoring offenses. So if I'm looking at the Packers right now, I still look at this game as like, we can win this. We just got to see what we got in our quarterback. And if they don't, then I wouldn't be surprised if they ship them out next year, because Aaron isn't there for much longer. I can promise you that. Does not look like Aaron's fully committed in that team overall. Obviously, during the season, he's going to be committed. But I think off season comes around. I think the last 2 years we've been discussing like where his mind's at being with the team. But I don't think it's going to be alive very much longer, especially after seeing how much success Tom Brady's had with the Bucs. I think it changes in order for both him and the Packers.
Yeah, I agree. I think Aaron Rodgers is out of there too. I'm surprised he even stayed there this season. But yeah, we'll see what Jordan Love's got. I don't think they get lucky a third time from going from Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love being a beast. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see this. They kind of started the sit behind a veteran quarterback and watch him play type of thing. Like Aaron Rodgers kind of was the first one to really, sit and wait a few years and come out and be successful. And I feel like other teams followed suit after that trend. So, I mean, yeah, we'll see about Jordan Love. He wasn't the highest rated quarterback coming out of college, but he was still, the top 5 best quarterbacks of his class, according to scouts. So, he's got to show something. We'll see.
So, question for you guys, some food for thought. If Jordan Love balls out this game and they destroy the Chiefs, he has an epic, I believe it's his first start, epic, whatever, his first real big game, regardless. Yeah. If he goes out there and he balls, right, and he just destroys the Chiefs, he looks amazing. What do you guys think that does to Aaron? What do you think that – I want to know what you guys think about that. Let's just say Jordan Love goes out there and balls. What does that do to the Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers situation?
If anything, I just feel like you have a little less like bitter taste in your mouth once Aaron leaves. I feel like that opens the door for Aaron leaving a little easier, and then you're a little confident moving into the future with what you got. If he goes out there and he plays horribly, then obviously you're in panic mode, because not only does Aaron hold all the power now because he knows you're fucked, I got all the power, you are nothing without me. I think that's a big issue. And I like what Roland said about how Aaron was really kind of one of the first QBs we saw sit under the ranks for a while and then come up and be a star. Usually if you're a star, you're just going to come right out and show what you got. I mean, we saw that with Mac Jones. Like, they didn't even keep Cam Newton around for whatever reason. They just said, Mac's our guy now. We're not going to keep you around when you can obviously try to start somewhere else. Zach Wilson, he's showing signs that he's great, but obviously it's the Jets. You're not going to find out much. And then with the other quarterbacks, they're kind of struggling.
Mac Jones throws dump-off passes every single play, but that's you're calling him a star already? Mac Jones?
Hey, I'm not saying top 10 in the league in passing yards. I'm going to hold my ground on our little Tom Brady prodigy child we got working over here.
5-yard dump-offs every play. Guy looks awesome. I love that Patriot system. Dump-off, dump-off, dump-off. Tom Brady did it the best.
I mean, as a fan, it obviously sucks because usually any third and long, you're just going to get a screen pass. But I mean, you want to draft players that work. I think the Chiefs' biggest issue, if they ever move on from Patrick Mahomes, is you're never going to get another Patrick Mahomes. So you're obviously going to struggle. There's some quarterbacks that go beyond the scheme. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, those guys, Lamar Jackson, I guess, or I would say as well, he's elite in my mind. These guys just groundbreaking when it comes to player types. But I don't really think, I think it's kind of overhyped thinking a guy's going to sit in the reins for so long and suddenly come out and be this like, complete knowledgeable, all-time great. Just don't see it happening. Obviously, I want Jordan Love to succeed. I want to see good quarterback play, but I don't have a ton of hope.
Yeah, I don't think it changes anything going back to the Aaron Rodgers situation. What's probably going to happen is he's going to go out there and have an okay game, and it's not really going to change anything. And they'd still have to make the decision on whether they try to keep Rodgers and if they keep Rodgers, to trade Jordan Love or to let him go and let Jordan Love be the future or draft a guy. So those are their options.
Yeah, I want to move on to the college football. I just want to recap real quick. As I'm a big firm believer of the two running backs, I'm also a big firm believer of college and NFL quarterbacks sitting a little. I feel like you see a lot of success when that happens. Jameis Winston, when he won the Heisman, he sat a little bit. Mac Jones won the Heisman, he sat. I'm a big believer of that, especially when you have a quarterback. Let them know the playbook, let them know the system, then they get to attack. This kind of has to go on the same topic we were talking about earlier of the value of draft picks. It's like nowadays, instead of creating a player and developing an athlete, it's like we'd rather draft them. We'd rather just get them. You know, and I feel like that's a trend we're starting to see now rather than what we used to see back in the day. But moving on to college football, started off this week hearing about TCU and their head coach, Gary Patterson, have mutually agreed to part ways after 21 seasons. Patterson's coaching record at TCU was 181-79. They were under Patterson. Listen, I didn't realize how crazy this is, but I'm going to read this off real quick before we continue this. Under Patterson at TCU, they were CUSA champs in 2002. They were 4-time Midwest Conference champs, and they were the Big 12 champs in 2014. Okay, he was 2-time Coach of the Year, two-time AFCA Coach of the Year, 2-time AP Coach of the Year, Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year, 2-time Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year, George Munger Award winner, Liberty Mutual Coach of the Year award, 2-time SN Coach of the Year, 2-time Walter Camp Coach of the Year, 2-time Woody Hayes Trophy winner, Home Depot Coach of the Year, Paul Bear Bryant Award, CUSA Coach of the Year, 2-time Mountain West Coach of the Year, and Big 12 Coach of the Year. He's also had 55 players drafted under him from TCU, and currently 23 TCU players in the NFL from under him.
Yeah, I mean, currently they're sitting at 3-5 and 1-4 in conference play as of today. Obviously, you're not looking to lead your division, but I mean, the dude got you there. But I think TCU sees bigger for the school moving forward. I think they got what they could out of Patterson, so now they want to part ways. But, I mean, if you look at a guy and you see all those accolades under a man and for what he's done for your school, don't you think you should offer him the decency to leave under his own terms at the end of the year? I mean, I know you agreed to part ways, but, why agree in the middle of the season? The man is we're already into the recruiting process to get him out. There's already a certain amount of players committed to TCU. Now, whether it be for the school or for him, that's on the players to decide. But I just feel like that's the worst thing you could do for your school in the middle of the season is to just completely take the culture that a coach brings and try to change that. I feel like now moving forward, they're obviously exploring other options, but with Oklahoma and Texas are leaving the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
So with that, you're going to see a lot of teams in there that think that, we can be the top dog now. So TCU obviously looked at and said, if we want to be top dogs, we got to move away from this man. And I just don't think moving away from him is the best option. 55 draft picks, the man knows what he sees in players. He can get you where you need to be.
Yeah, I agree. I do understand where their frustration is coming from, knowing that when you first got him and up until about 2013, 2014, y'all were hot. TCU was always consistently ranked, always consistently getting high draft picks. He's the first coach in TCU history to have 2 first-round draft picks in this past draft. So like, it's one of those things that's like he knows what it takes, but for some reason, this past couple of years, they just couldn't do it. And I don't know if that's because his styles got figured out, if his old school gameplay doesn't work anymore, if they weren't getting the recruits, if Oklahoma and Texas were just so much better. I don't know what it was, but I do understand their frustration. But as you said, Zach, I am a huge believer in letting them finish the season, man. At least I don't agree with LSU firing Ogeron, but at least they agreed to let him finish out the season. And I think that's very disrespectful that they did that personally to Gary Patterson.
Yeah, after 21 years, you do that to your coach. I mean, like fire him mid-season. What's TCU's record?
They're 3-5, 1-4 in conference. Not good. Not good.
Yeah, it's not good, but I mean, what was TCU before this man came to the program? Nothing.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, they were terrible.
Like they didn't really become relevant until he was there, and I mean, really since Andy Dalton kind of made them relevant during that era. And yeah, I agree. You should let a coach finish a season. The Jets even let Adam Gase finish the season, so I think it's the right thing to do in most cases. But yeah, it is what it is. Like
Yeah.
the shakeup with the conferences, and they probably thought it was time to make a move. So
No, and I like what you said there, Meech. Like before he got there, where was he? Because it makes you think. It's like, all right, when he first got hired, it was like, all right, Gary, we're looking to make us a bowl eligible team. We want to be consistently in bowl games. We want to be consistently 6 wins. We want to be 500. All right, you did that, Gary. Here's your contract extension. We want to start looking for 8 to 10 wins a season. We want to start maybe getting in bigger bowl games, start getting some 4-star recruits. Oh, you did that? All right, now we're starting to look to win some conference championships. We're starting to look to maybe get on the national scene. Oh, you did that? Now we want to be the best. It's like, all right, you got this guy when you wanted him to just make your program decent. He did that. He made you good. He made you amazing. Yeah, he had a couple of rough years, but it's like the same coach you had when you wanted you guys to be decent is the same coach you're mad about not being national champs. Like the whole pyramid you have of right here, it would not exist if it wasn't for Gary Patterson.
right, that's what I'm saying. So I don't know. Maybe there's something else going on. After 21 years, probably good to get a new face in there, especially when you're 3-5, and they haven't really been that good in the past, 3-4 years. So I don't know.
Yeah, and then so I was researching trying to see, he's obviously going to get a coaching job. You don't have the resume that man has and don't get hired. Like it's inevitable, regardless of what you think of the season this year or what you think about him at TCU. Like you got to admit that he is a Division I Power 5 caliber head coach. Okay, so I'm researching, I'm looking, I'm like trying to see, all right, where's he going to go? Where's he going to go? Well, Texas Tech, as we just talked about, just got rid of their head coach. So everyone's saying that he already has Texas ties. He's already a Big 12 coach. It wouldn't be that shocking for him to go to Texas Tech and then just do what he did at TCU and then make them become a prominent program. I could see that happening. And then looking at
I just saw this headline right here about Gary Patterson. Lincoln Riley says that ain't right on Gary Patterson's exit from TCU. So there you go.
Yeah. And then I was like, all right, so who's going to take the TCU job? Started looking into it. So it looks like at first SMU head coach Sonny Dykes and UTSA head coach Jeff Traylor were both in line for the Texas Tech job because that was like the next big step for them. Well, before that happened, UTSA head coach Jeff Traylor recently accepted a pay raise and a contract extension from UTSA, so he was out. So everyone was like, oh, Sonny Dykes at SMU is going to be the Texas Tech coach. Like he's going to go to a Power 12 or Power 5. He's going to be a Big 12 coach. Well, now it's like, well, TCU job opened up. Why is he going to go to Texas Tech that has never done anything when he can just go to TCU, which is just having a little downfall, but has an historic program? I feel like what's going to end up happening, I mean, I can't say for sure, but I feel like it would make most sense. Dykes from SMU has Texas ties, goes to TCU, and then you see either Patterson take over SMU or you see like a little switcherooski, or you see Patterson take over Texas Tech.
Actually, I thought the best option for the coaching job at TCU was going to be Justin Fuentes. He was already the assistant coach under Patterson at TCU for 4 years before he ended up moving on to Memphis. And then now he's at Virginia Tech. He's 42-30 coaching for VT. That's pretty good in my opinion, especially in the ACC. I think he'd have a better opportunity coaching players out of the Big 12. I think he'd have more success there, especially since you're not in a competitive environment as the ACC. I still think the ACC is pretty good. This is just an off year. Obviously, teams aren't highest caliber that they were in the past, but he already has some experience with TCU. He's already been around the culture enough. Unless TCU wants a complete culture change, they want someone that's never been there, then I understand. Go for it. Billy Napier, obviously, pretty good candidate as well, but I think Fuentes is the best option.
Did Virginia Tech officially get rid of Fuente?
No, I don't think he was released. I just think that's the best fit for him. Obviously, I would think they'd want to move on. His record's decent, but that's another school where I think you got to move on just to get a different look. You're obviously not going to win your conference with what you got, so look elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think that he's foot out the door anyways. I feel like even if they don't get rid of him right now, I feel like it's just he's not really turning the program much around to what it should be. Moving on from that, we got Minnesota signs PJ Fleck to a 7-year contract extension. For those that don't know too much about my boy PJ Fleck, he was the head coach at Western Michigan, had them have an amazing career there. Corey Davis came out of there, ended up going to Minnesota. He's currently 32-21 as the Gophers head coach. That doesn't sound too crazy, right? Well, then if you dial it in a little bit more, he's 24-10 in the last 34 games, which is the best 34-game run in any Minnesota coach history. 6-2 currently, 4-1 in the Big Ten. What do y'all think about this PJ Fleck signing? You think that Minnesota's in the right direction with it? You think? What do you think about it?
First of all, why is PJ Fleck your boy? You're like, my boy PJ Fleck. Who?
He's not
I didn't mean
like
give a shit about the Golden Gophers.
First and foremost, I'm a Wisconsin Badger fan who's rivals with Minnesota. So don't come at my neck like that. I accidentally said it. All right, I'm sorry.
Since when did you like Wisconsin?
My whole life. My entire life.
You ever been there?
Yeah, I went there in the summer, though.
I'm just messing with you. But Big Ten football is trash. And the Golden Gophers are trash. So I could care less. Zach, handed it off to you.
I'd say the only thing I have to say about signing, I mean, he's a big part of the culture there at Minnesota, so I feel like record was a little bit not as important as to what he meant as a football coach to Minnesota. The only thing I disagree with is I hate, and I mean I fucking hate, any deal that has to do with anything that involves longer than 5 years. If you cannot see that far into the future, there are so many things that could happen within a year span, let alone 7 years. And they want to bring this man back for 7 years. They don't even know if he's going to be the same person in 7 years. Philosophies, like what comes out, like this man could change his entire life in that time frame. But I mean, obviously the thing it shows is they have a lot of trust in him. They love the guy, so they want to lock him down as long as possible. I just hate anything over 5 years. I think it's stupid. A bit too much oversight. They think it'll save them money in the long term, but really you're just setting yourself up for some shit to go wrong. And then you're going to end up in a really bad spot where either A, if things don't go the way you think they are, you're going to have to buy his contract out. And we saw how that went with Willie Taggart in Florida State. Or you're going to have a situation where he's going to want out and he's going to be not recruiting as hard or not giving it his all because he wants you to do whatever it takes to get his ass out of there. Obviously, you wish them the best. You hope they do well with what they got, but that's all I pretty much have to say about it.
Yeah, I agree. So going back on to what we were talking about earlier with the Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, Conference USA likely to add 4 schools as all sport members: Liberty, New Mexico State, And then 2 FCS programs, Sam Houston State, who's currently ranked number 1 in FCS, and Jacksonville State, which is a historical FCS powerhouse. I think it's just crazy because it's just another domino effect of Oklahoma, Texas, man. That's all it is.
Yeah, Conference USA is on the down for sure. I'd say the Sun Belt takes over as better than Conference USA, and Conference USA might go down as not the worst, probably not worse than the MAC, but one of the worst actual D1, not AA conferences. So,
Yeah, I think obviously it'd probably be impossible to do, but I wish FCS and FBS would kind of instill the regulation that soccer invokes. Like if you finish at the bottom of your conference or of your league at the end of every year, why should you not go down and try to compete with teams more at your competition level? I mean,
it's a great idea.
Yeah, we're literally throwing FCS teams like North Dakota State that end up going undefeated every year, and they're not playing anybody. And it's like, oh yeah, well they have pretty much the same roster as like an ACC school. Like, why are we keeping them down there? Like, would they not want to be in the FBS and make more?
All about money, dude. It's because when you join a conference, you sign a contract with ESPN, and you make way more money. And like that's why FAU jumped up. They got, another $1 million or whatever it is to be in the American Conference and grows your audience. It's all about money. And like they tried, I don't know if you heard about the Super League that they tried to make over in Europe. And they tried to bring in Spanish clubs, French clubs, English clubs into an American style league. And they freaked out and they got it canceled. That was because a bunch of American businessmen went over there and wanted to create this league. It's all about money. So once money isn't a factor in the NCAA, which it always will be, especially now with student athletes making money, I don't ever see that changing. So that's the only reason they don't do it probably.
Yeah, me neither. And it just sucks because, like, realistically, dude, there are some years where there are some FCS programs that are a top 25 team regardless of their division. There's some North Dakota State teams that have won natties. There's some JMU teams that have won some natties. App State beat number 5 Michigan. North Dakota State beating Iowa State. Like, there are some years where it's like I would really like to see North Dakota State in the Midwest Conference or in the Pac-12 or some teams. And I think what we're going to see when Jacksonville State and Sam Houston State come, it's going to be like that's going to be it's going to be one of those things that it's going to come down quick to show, are these top-notch FCS teams really that good, or is it just they get lucky? I think we're going to find that out quick. Because CUSA is a conference that can smoothly a very good FCS team can smoothly go into and do well.
And I think another thing we're going to start seeing is like SEC is obviously going to start, or all the conferences are going to change their name because obviously location-wise teams are moving around. Like, can't really call it the Southeastern Conference when you got 2 Midwest teams there. I just think it's going to turn into a big tax bracket. You got your richest teams in the SEC. Second's going to go to the Big Ten, then the ACC. It's going to filter out. And then I think you're going to start seeing teams leave the FCS into the FBS and vice versa. You're going to see teams drop down because simply they just can't keep up with the money aspect of it. Like, players are going to make money off their names. More money is going to be involved. And if you cannot compete with the big dogs for playing time, airtime, getting on television, getting seen, getting jersey sales, whatnot, if you're not bringing in the cash, you're not going to get players. You are no longer going to be able to recruit for academics. Like obviously some players commit for academic purposes, but at the end of the day, it's like, oh, do you want to go to Duke or do you want to go to Alabama where you're going to literally be on TV every day? Like, I think the answer is pretty obvious.
Well, going on endorsements, what you're speaking of, let's be completely honest and like cut out all bullshit. If you are a 3-star tight end or 4-star tight end, it's a little under recruited. You are going to make more money off endorsements and sponsorships playing at North Dakota State than you are going to play in half of the CUSA. Let's be honest, because they sell out every game. They have their own TV schedule, and you're going to play in the playoffs. And you know that in North Dakota, those restaurants, those businesses, you are going to have more opportunities to make a profit for yourself as a young man than you are playing at a small school in the FBS level. Let's be honest.
I also think so where was I trying to go with this? Oh yeah. So I think this also affects the NFL's perspective on drafting players. No longer are you just going to be looking at people at Power 5 conferences to draft because you're like, oh, they play at the high skill level. Like kids aren't going to play at the best schools anymore. They're just going to go to where they can make the most money. Now, whether that be playing for the best school in the country and getting the show out, like they can do that. But like you said, they could go to a smaller school, ball out, get a ton of endorsement. But now they face the risk of like, oh, well, he didn't play the best level of competition. We don't know if we should draft him. That was Trey Lance's biggest knock is, oh, the dude looks great, but the dude also plays against FCS people. We don't know what he can do. And I think that's the biggest issue.
But that's the thing. If you have to choose between North Dakota or even Florida Atlantic, you're not making that much money anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like what? How do you think the sponsorships would be that much different from,
you play. All right.
let's say, FAU in North Dakota
Okay,
State?
yeah. Listen. You go to FAU, right? You get what, 2,000 people a game if you're lucky. 2,000. Every single time you play at North Dakota State, their stadium is sold out. Every single time they play a game, home or away, it is on television. Every single season they play, they are in the postseason.
But how would they be making more money?
Because you have restaurants in North Dakota, you have businesses in North Dakota, you have all those people in North Dakota that are like, look, we're willing to sponsor you because we know how much if we sponsor you and you ball out, you're going to be on TV, you're going to be on ESPN, you're going to be playing in the national championship. If you go to FAU, bro, no one's going to your games. No one's buying your jerseys. Like your jersey sales alone are going to increase based on the popularity of your team in North Dakota.
Yeah, the level of competition.
I guess. I don't know.
I went to North Dakota State, okay, for wrestling. I went and saw everything. I'm telling you right now, going there, you are going to get more of a following from the people there and the historical aspect of generations.
No, I believe that, but
that's going
I
to
don't
open
know
the door for jersey sales and endorsements more than playing at an FAU or a small FBS team where no one cares about you because you're not the biggest team in the state. I promise.
Yeah, I believe it. Makes sense.
Moving on from that. Oh, I'm sorry, Zach.
Yeah, just the last thing is like the competition in the area. Like you look at FAU, like we have Miami not too far from us. We play in a state where we have a ton of college football. In North Dakota State, there is only North Dakota State. You really don't have that much other teams you're competing with for the spotlight. Like when it comes out of North Dakota, the North Dakota people are going to have your back. When you go to FAU, you're competing with Miami. You're competing with Florida. You're competing with Florida State. All these teams around the area, whatever team you want to name, those are players competing for those endorsement deals as well. So I feel like you got to pick and choose where you want to win your battles and where you want to lose. You want to go to the better school. You want to make more money. You want to go to better academics. You want to be more noticeable. Pick your poison.
On top of that, too, there's no NFL program in North Dakota. So if you are the best quarterback at North Dakota State, you are the best quarterback in the state of North Dakota. You know what I mean? You are the face of the state. You know what I mean? Like that's another thing, too, that's going to help with endorsements. And it's going to help open doors for these kids. You know, when you go to a school like North Dakota, you go to a school like Montana, you go to school at Fresno State where they don't have a local team. There's no pro sports team. You know what I mean? So, like, when you – like, that helps with endorsements also. Like, Trey Lance, starting quarterback for North Dakota State, best quarterback in the state, eating at Buffalo Wild Wings in North Dakota, Fargo. You know what I mean? Like, it's stuff like that you're not going to get at FAU and stuff like that. You know? Next thing.
Yeah, I hear you.
Something that I read off of Barstool, I'm going to give him the credit, which was I just thought was hilarious. Texas special teams coach Jeff Bank, his pet monkey attacked a trick-or-treater, quote unquote, had to pry the monkey's jaws off of the child.
I think the best part of the story that wasn't talked about is it's not even his monkey. It's the monkey is his girlfriend or his wife, who's a stripper, who he met while he was with his other wife, and they caused them to divorce. Now he's with this stripper who has a pet monkey, and the monkey is a stripper as well. She is on stage with the monkey doing all these shows. Like where are you getting these special teams coach that have such weird lives going on?
His resume.
Yeah, when you were interviewing for the job, were you just like, oh, that dude's got a hot wife and a pet monkey? That's my assistant. That's my special teams coach. Like, where in the thought process were you like, that's who I want on my staff?
It literally just shows Texas football in a nutshell. Like it literally just like it's just Texas football in a nutshell, dude. They're special teams coaches, girlfriends, pet monkeys, attacking trick or treaters, man. Like, I just thought everyone needed to know about that. I just thought that was awesome. Georgia Southern.
So, wait. The coach's girlfriend, the woman he left his wife and kids for, is or was a stripper that goes by the name Pole Assassin.
Meech, you have
and said monkey named Gia has been incorporated into her act. She has also appeared on Jerry Springer.
You good? You just had a laggy session.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to read something. See, I need a new laptop, bro. I can't even open a page and have Zoom at the same time. It's like it told me your computer usage is affecting your
use your telephone.
camera.
Use your telephone. Next, we got Georgia Southern getting former USC head coach Clay Helton. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a Clay Helton fan at all. I don't even know too much about him. All I know is he was 46-24 at USC. Hopefully, he can do better at Georgia Southern. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about that. I just saw it.
I used to live near Georgia Southern. Screw that school. That's all I have to say.
I think there are certain coaches built for certain conference play. You look at people like Mike Norvell and you give him a test to a Power 5 coming out of Memphis, like you want to give him that chance. Florida State also tried to do that with Willie Taggart once he left. Well, first he was at USF, Western Kentucky, all that, then went to Oregon, then FSU. You see how they coach better when your roster is better, but once game planning comes in, like that's where you kind of separate it. I think he'll do better in an environment where he can recruit better and get better people. And I think his game planning is a little better suited for non-Power 5. I just think when he's going up against that much talent and his guys are equal, he's just getting out-coached up there. I don't think he's ever going to out-coach his team into a win. I think he made the right move leaving USC. But I definitely think it's one of the bigger things that go unnoticed is that coaches are meant for certain conferences. They're either better recruiters and they make up for it in that aspect because they can't game plan as well. You have some guys who are amazing game planners and just can't recruit that well. I feel like they got to find where they match up and what school fits them. And I think this is a good shot for him to figure out where he stands as a college coach.
I don't think he's going to turn them into anything like a Liberty or like a Cincinnati or anything like that. But I do agree with the fact that he's going to get those borderline Power 5 kids now. He's going to get those kids that are like, I can go to USC and sit for 3 years and then maybe get a 2-year run and go to the NFL, or I can go start right away under a coach who's produced NFL caliber players at Georgia Southern. You know what I mean? But like I said, I don't really got too much to speak about. I don't really care for Clay Helton or Georgia Southern, to be honest. Little fun fact, College Game Day is headed to Cincinnati for the first time ever. Cincinnati hosts Tulsa. I think they'll slaughter them. Tulsa's like 3-5. It's just to get it out. There's no really big games. Big thing to talk about college football right now. Basically the main focus of our college football discussion tonight. College football playoff rankings just got released tonight. I'm going to read off the rankings and then we'll discuss like the politics of everything. Coming in from 10-1. At 10, we got Notre Dame. 9, we got Wake Forest. 8, Oklahoma. 7, Michigan. 6, Cincinnati. 5, Ohio State. 4, Oregon. 3, Michigan State. 2, Alabama. 1, UGA. First thing I want to discuss about this before we talk about Cincinnati, because obviously that's the most controversial thing about this ranking, is the Wake Forest thing. So I was talking to some of my sources, some of my higher up people in the sports media world, and we were talking today, and we were like, look, Wake Forest hasn't really beaten anyone. I completely agree. But let's take that out of factor, right? Change Wake Forest with Clemson. If Clemson had this Wake Forest schedule and they went out like 9-0, 8-0, whatever Wake Forest is right now, 7-0, whatever they are, would Clemson be ranked 9th in the college football playoffs? And the answer is no, they wouldn't. And now I'm not saying Wake Forest is a top 4 team. I'm not even saying Wake Forest is going to finish the season undefeated. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. What I am saying is, in a system that's supposed to be based on pure fairness, If you switch this Wake Forest team with Clemson, this Clemson team would not be ranked 9th. That is what I gotta say.
I feel like
it's just like it's tough to answer that because Clemson doesn't have the same schedule as Wake Forest, and it's like a hypothetical that can't answer. That's why the polling and everything that goes on with the rankings is so, it's biased. It's as fair as it can be, in my opinion. So, I mean, taking in everything for account, strength of schedule, everything that they take into account. I mean, I think the rankings most of the time are on point. It is what it is. Their algorithm works for the most part.
I feel like the algorithm this year, you could definitely see less punishment coming for losses earlier in the season. Before, if you were a top 5 team and you lost to an unranked opponent, you would be lucky to be inside the top 10, let alone the top 15 come next week. We see this with teams like Oregon. Oregon's ranked 4th right now. If you take away that loss from that 3-5 Stanford team, let's say they're undefeated, let's say they win that game, they're probably ranked like 2nd in the country. So what you're telling me from the rankings is that losing to a 3-5 Stanford team, whether it be through injuries, whether it be through just a bad day, is only worth dropping 2 spots in the rankings, then honestly, losing doesn't even matter that much. Obviously, later in the season, going to be a bigger deal, more impact on those games. And I like how they kind of didn't tear teams apart for losing so early in the season. But the fact that you have an undefeated Oklahoma, which they haven't been playing well, but I think with Caleb Williams, they deserve their ranking at 8. You have a Wake Forest undefeated Power 5 conference team up there. Like, obviously, maybe deserve to be a little higher, maybe not. Because, I mean, if you were to put them up against an Ohio State or an Oregon or Michigan State, are they going to win? Probably not. I don't know. I don't think so. But I mean, I don't really think there was any way that they could have made everyone happy. I think they went with who they think is the best from what they've seen so far. And I can't really be mad at that. I just think you got to give some teams credit like Wake Forest. You got to give some teams credit like Cincinnati. And then I think the only other thing I had wrong with it is not a single Sun Belt team ranked in the top 25. You have a what? 3 and what's Wisconsin's record right now?
4-3.
4-3, ranked over undefeated teams on non-Power 5. It's just pretty much saying that no one in the Power 5 really matters. And that's most likely because the entire board of the College Football Committee is made up of Power 5 members. They only represent teams like from the Power 5. They're not really going to give any credit to the teams that aren't in it because they really have nothing to prove.
But the thing is, do you think any team in the Sun Belt is beating 4-3 Wisconsin?
I think UTSA and I think Coastal Carolina, as a Badger fan, both could beat Wisconsin. Yes.
I don't know. That's the thing.
Coming as a Badger fan, as someone that born and raised and 6 years old wanted to go to that university, I'm telling you that's what I believe. Yes.
Okay.
I feel like
maybe. That's what I'm saying. Maybe, but it's not like, Coastal Carolina is that much better than them. But that's where it comes into play. Like, you argue that the record's better, so they should, but they also haven't played anyone. So it's like, what do you do?
I feel like what really ruined all this is you look back to, I think 2005 it was, and one of the biggest teams we'd ever seen was Colt Brennan in Hawaii go undefeated and put up like 50 points a game out of whatever conference they were in. And then they were given the credit they were deserved as a top team. They didn't put them in the national championship, but they gave them the next best option, which was to be put into a murder with Georgia, who got screwed out of being in the national championship. And that literally just let the world know that non-Power 5 teams cannot compete with the big dogs.
Yeah, but then to argue that, you see in the 2008 BCS Fiesta Bowl, Boise State beat an Oklahoma's team that should have been in the national championship. And then you see UCF beat a Auburn team who also could have been in the national championship. And to go back on what you guys both said, and I also agree, strength of schedule is very important. I do agree with that, yes. But Wake Forest is a Power 5 program. They were in a Power 5 conference. It is not their fault that the ACC sucked this year. They do not control that. They do not control that their conference was bad. But what they do control is that they play in a Power 5 conference, and they're winning out, and they're doing what they can control. So you're telling me if they win out and they did everything they could possibly do and the powers that they have in their hands, you're telling me they still don't deserve it? This just goes back to I don't think the college football committee will be completely fair and completely both sides until there's at least 8 teams. I think 12 is perfect, but I think at least 8.
And if you were going to do that, then at least let teams know before the year even starts. Like, hey, even if you go undefeated, like probably not going to make the college football committee. Like, sorry about it. Like, have some way of letting teams know before the year start that these are your expectations for them. And even if they exceed or underperform, like this is where they're going to round out. Like, I know you can't predict what's going to happen, but you got to have what if scenarios to play out, because what if you do end up having like, let's say Wake Forest and Cincinnati went out. They don't really have anyone on their schedule that really like puts them in the, yeah, they need to be in.
Wake Forest doesn't. Cincinnati does.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Cincinnati's got a couple more, which I got a lot of hope for Cincinnati. I think they could really pull this off and actually make a threat. I don't know if they'll make a threat in the playoff, but just in order to make it in, I think it'd be big to see finally someone outside of just the Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson routine that we've seen the last couple of years or so.
That's actually the next thing I wanted to go to is talk about Cincinnati. So when we did all these playoff rankings, I had them at 2 to 3 for worst case scenario. Okay. But I was like, look, they beat Indiana at Indiana, and going into this season, Indiana was ranked very high and regarded very well as they had a very good COVID season last year. They beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, and they still play SMU, and then possibly if Houston wins out, they play Houston in the conference championship game. That's 3 to 4 ranked games right there, okay? And they're at 6. Ohio State has 0 ranked wins this season. 0. And they have 0 ranked wins. And Cincinnati went to Notre Dame, who was ranked number 10 in the college football playoffs, and beat them. And then head coach Luke Fickell for Cincinnati says, who's the chairman that even play football? And then the craziest thing I'm reading today, right before we do this podcast, head coach for the UCF Knights, Gus Malzahn, former coach for Auburn, coached in 2 national championships. The man knows his football. He stated, I played Alabama and UGA every year. And believe me, the Cincinnati team is right up there with them. They can win it all. Okay? On top of that, Cincinnati went undefeated last year, 10-0 in their COVID season, played Georgia, the loss of Georgia 24-21 in a game they were winning, that Georgia beat them on a game-winning drive, and then they were undefeated again this year. So their only loss in the last 2 seasons is the best team in college football right now. And they're ranked 6th. Like, what more do you want them to do? You can't change. And what people don't understand, too, is it's not like Cincinnati could go last year and be like, all right, let's change our schedule. Schedules are made 3 to 4 years in advance. So for them to even have Indiana and Notre Dame right now without even knowing they were going to be this good, and then they beat them, like, what more do you want from them? And the only reason I'm sorry to rant, I'll let you guys keep going. The only reason why I don't freak out too much about this, I'm not a Cincinnati fan, I like seeing fairness, is that it is the first week. So much going to happen. So many upsets are going to happen. Some of these teams are going to go head-to-head. I think if Cincinnati wins out, and they do, they beat SMU and they beat Houston, I think there's literally no reason they can't be in the top 4.
I'm just going to say a quick thing. I think it comes down to, once again, money. And, like, does anyone really want to see Cincinnati get in there over, an Ohio State? I mean, yeah, a lot of people would, but, you want the big name in the top 4. Like, let's say Cincinnati does come out there and get shellacked, it looks bad on college football and the NCAA. So I think the name, obviously, in the school, obviously has something to do with the ranking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree 100%. But on that note, Gus Malzahn, coached Cam Newton, coached Auburn. He's coached national champions.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying
that's what I'm saying. Is when you have a source as reliable as him saying that they are legit, how do you not listen to that? How do you not, like, what? Zach, you were about to say something?
Yeah. I think all this really shows me is that the FCS has it so right with the 18. What do they have? 18, 16 team playoff system that they have. Like,
they run I want to say they run a 30. They do 24 round 1, and then the 1 to 4 seeds get a bye in each division.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they should go to that, but like even an 8 team, like if you get the top 8 teams, that's your Power 5 conference winners right there, and then you have 2 to 3 at large bids.
And then you have a Cincinnati, like an undefeated non-power 5, and then a Georgia runner-up and like a Wisconsin or Penn State runner-up.
Exactly. You have 5 teams that have earned it through playing a difficult conference and making it through and holding their belt at the end of the year, and they get to play for the championship. And you have 3 teams that may have lost in the championship game or have worked their ass off all year that deserve the recognition to at least get a chance. Like, obviously, if you look on paper, no, I don't think Wake Forest is going to beat UGA, Bama, Michigan State, or Oregon, but I'd at least like to see him try. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in college football. These are all college athletes. They're still not even fully developed. Anything can happen on any given Saturday or Sunday. I just think they could have done it so much better. And then also, we talked about 4 head coaches on the college football playoff committee under Nick Saban. Where's the diversity? Having a little more people that see, I don't know, non-power 5 teams that play, get to see how every team's competing. Because I can tell you not everyone on that committee has seen every team play and has a proper evaluation for how those guys have earned their rankings. A lot of them, it was just, these are how the wins and losses look on paper, and this is what we think about them outside of the top 10. Like, I think they just look at teams and already have a pre-made up idea of what they want these teams to be, and they're just going to fit that role for them. And if they over or underperform, they could give a shit as long as they're not in the top 4.
No, yeah, and to go off of that as well, it's like you do 8, it's perfect. It's perfect. There's no arguing. There's no anything. And the thing that sucks about college football, man, is like you see in the NFL, you see a team like Green Bay, they get blown out game 1. Now they're 6-1 and they're ready to attack. If that was in the college football, they might not even make the playoffs. You know, and it sucks knowing that you could have one game where you don't play your best and you're still the best team in the country and you don't get the opportunity. You know, and that's what sucks. And by increasing it to 8 or 12, my personal opinion is best, but even 8, it gives you that, all right, we had a bad week 1, we had a bad week 2, we had an injury week 5, but we were able to overcome adversity, because I believe being a champion, overcoming adversity means more than winning the games you're supposed to win, personally. So I personally believe, you know, and you don't get that with how it is right now. Yeah, that's all I had to say about on that. Moving on now to some combat sports. So we just passed UFC 267. Glover Teixeira became the light heavyweight champion of the world, beating Jan Blachowicz. Glover Teixeira, 42 years old. Uncle Dana said he's getting Jiri Prochazka next in line. Peter Yan defeating Corey Sandhagen, unanimous decision for the Bantamweight interim belt. Islam Makhachev, real deal, submits Dan Hooker in the second minute of the fight. Kazmat, legit, beats his first-ranked opponent in the first minute of the fight. Legitness. Now, what everybody and their mother has been hitting me up about to hear is UFC 268. In my opinion, the greatest MMA fight card to ever be put together to man. This Saturday, November 6th, 8 p.m. prelims, 10 p.m. pay-per-view. I think it's the best fight card ever. We get Joe Rogan back for the first time since first time since July with Poirier McGregor trilogy. Little crazy note, they changed the Gaethje Chandler fight to the first fight on the pay-per-view instead of the third, so that head coach Trevor Whitman doesn't have to coach 3 fights in a row. Can be a lot on your mind, and anyone that would know in the MMA world. Must-see prelims. We got Ally Aquinta versus Bobby Green. Fights are in Madison Square Garden, New York. Ally Aquinta, New York native, real estate agent. Fought Khabib for the belt. He's got it all. Bobby Green, tied with Kevin Holland last year for most fights. I think it's going to be a war. I think it's going to be much-watched TV. I think I'm going to go Bobby Green in a split or unanimous decision, though, personally.
Yeah, let me hear all your picks because I only know who 2 of these guys are.
Yeah, so next up, we got a very intriguing fight for anyone that doesn't know MMA too much. We got Alex Pereira versus Andreas Michelada, something like that, middleweight fight. For everyone that doesn't know, Israel Adesanya's only ever kickboxing loss in which he got knocked out was to Alex Pereira, who's making his UFC debut Saturday on the prelims. So everyone's saying, you know, this guy's – and if you watch him, he's been in Glory, he's been in K1, he's fought – for people that don't know mixed martial arts, don't know fighting as well, he's fought in the NFL of kickboxing and has slaughtered everyone, okay? The man's a dog. If he can put it together in MMA, obviously, who knows? But everyone's saying that you want to keep good eyes on him.
But Justin Gaethje, he's pretty good. I actually know 3 guys, including him.
Yeah, so let's move on to the pay-per-view. I'm going to take Pereira on that just based off hype. So pay-per-view, we got opening fight, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, lightweight fight. These are two guys fought for the title and lost. Gaethje fought Khabib, lost. Michael Chandler fought Brazilian man. I'm blanking out right now. Charles Oliveira and lost. They're both fighting. I'm assuming the winner of this gets the title shot at Poirier versus Oliveira. I'm a huge fan of both fighters, and I think this fight is what I call must-watch TV. It will be electric, and somebody might die. But if I'm going with a bettor's heart, and I'm going to go with who I legitimately think is going to win based off being a better fighter, I think Justin Gaethje takes it. That's my pick. I also think, before Zach gives his input on his pick, I also think it's better for the UFC if Justin Gaethje wins. Because I think if Michael Chandler wins, I don't think he can beat the guys at the top. I think Justin Gaethje can. I think it helps the lightweight division more if Justin Gaethje can win. But regardless, I think Gaethje's the better overall fighter. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love Chandler. I mean, from where the guy's come from, what he's done for the sport, not just in the UFC, but for other fight organizations as well. I mean, the dude's a dog. I mean, just straight up beast. It'll be really interesting to see how Chandler approaches it. I know Gaethje, the Division I wrestler, dude is a baller on the ground, but I mean, the man's got hands of steel. I mean, that is the last man on earth I would want to get punched in the face by. I mean, Khabib himself said it was like fighting a man with cinder block for hands. Not a guy you want to stand up and fight with. It'll be interesting to see what he does. Michael Chandler coming off the Oliveira loss. I mean, he could have won it in the first round and then just ended up coming back in the second round, getting things turned on him. That's just how the sport is. Anything can happen on any given night. So it's not a given that either one of these fighters is going to walk away with the win, but there will be damage for sure. And if I had to take my pick at the end, I got to roll with Gaethje. I mean, the man's a monster. I still think he's in his prime. I think he's going to walk away at the end of the night with a dub on his back.
I think the deciding factor to give a little more support to what me and Zach are saying. They're both elite wrestlers. Neither one of them are taking each other down. That's a given. They're going to stand and strike. I think Gaethje's a better striker. Also, we've seen that Gaethje has a chin. He can eat a punch. Chandler has a glass jaw recently, as well as Chandler's very susceptible to leg kicks, and Gaethje has leg kicks from hell. So that's why I think it's going to go that way. Next big fight, we got Frankie Edgar versus Marlon Cheeto Vera in the Bantamweight division. Going to be another really fun. Every fight on this card is fun, guys. Listen to me. I'm telling you, it's the greatest card ever put together. It's going to be a very fun, super high-paced, in-your-face, striking back-and-forth fight. I just think the deciding factor is going to be the age, and I think Cheeto Vera is going to pull out in the third round over Frankie Edgar, as well as this 35 weight cut. I think is a lot for him. And I think Cheeto Vera is just feeling himself. His only loss is Jose Aldo in a close fight. I think Marlon Vera comes out. I think he comes out on top over Frankie Edgar in a great fight. I would not be surprised if it was a third round TKO or something that due to the fatigue of Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, Cheeto's got to be a man on the mission. Coming to the fight. You're on one of the biggest fight cards everyone's going to be watching. You really got to show everyone that you are one of the best fighters in your division. You've got to cement yourself up there and tell everyone that I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to run through this old man, and I deserve a title shot at some point. As for Frankie Edgar, I mean, dude's been in this situation before. He knows what he's got to do. He's got a game plan that he's got to follow. I agree with you on the age disparity. I think we're going to see it more towards the later rounds. You're going to see Cheeto going to be a little more relentless, and Edgar's might be on his heels a little more. It's just going to be interesting to see how Cheeto is going to bring him down. Most of the time, most of his, if I'm not mistaken, aren't most of his finishes due to submission.
But he also has some disgusting TKO elbows.
Yeah. I feel like his safer bet is going to be to try to bring Edgar to the ground. I mean, if you want to gas a man out, especially with age, I think the best option is to take him to the ground at that point. You're going to really want to get him working on the ground in the early rounds. So that way he has a hard time even standing on his feet towards the end. I think Cheeto's got this one. If he's my pick for the night.
I would not be surprised if Frankie won, though. I'm not bashing on Frankie here.
Honestly, with this entire card, as confident I am with some of my picks, I would not be surprised at all if I was wrong about every single one. I mean, Because as confident as I am in seeing these guys, this is fighting, and everyone has a plan till you get punched in the face. So
Yeah. And not only is it fighting, these are the best fighters in the world. You know.
yeah.
So the next fight we got on the card is Shane Burgos versus Billy Quarantillo. I am a huge Burgos fan. Even when the dude loses, he wins fight of the night. Like he's just literally so much fun to watch. Like go YouTube Shane Burgos, watch any of his fights. Josh Emmett, Calvin Kattar, even when he lost against Edson Barbosa, they're electric. The man is so much fun to watch. But Billy Q, the Tampa boy, baby, from Buffalo, New York, training out of Gracie, Tampa South. The problem is with this fight is Billy Q's ground game is a lot better than Shane Burgos, but Burgos' striking is a lot better, and I do not see Quarantillo getting it to the ground. I don't want a dog in this fight because I like both guys. I'd be very happy with either one of them winning. But giving you a prediction, what the people want to hear, I'm going to go Shane Burgos, and I think he's going to finish him before the third round.
Yeah, I mean, Burgos is better. I mean, it's just hard not rooting for the Tampa kid. You got to take the bias out of it in some way. Burgos is obviously the better all-around fighter. He's going to do what he plans to do. He obviously has bigger plans for what he wants to be in his division, especially. Just got to go out there and prove it. I think this is the best time for both these fighters to really prove something to everybody. I mean, especially for what other names are on this card. People are looking at them like, who are you? Like, who are you guys? Well, this is their chance to show everyone what they've got. And I think for Burgos, there's more on the line for him because if he loses this kid, his stock's not going to look too nice. So he's got a lot riding in on this. And as for our Tampa boy, Billy, this is a chance to put Tampa on the map big time. Not a lot of known fighters coming from Tampa background. So it'll be fun to see one of our own make it. I have high hopes for him, but Burgos is a different beast right now.
What's going to be interesting, too, about this fight is the crowd environment because you got Burgos from New York. But although Billy fights out of Tampa, he is a Buffalo, New York native. So that's one reason why people were saying, you know, why isn't the Ally Quinta Bobby Green fight? Well, it's like, well, they're going to probably bring more of a draw than them. So it is going to be interesting to see who's going to have the crowd's side in that fight, I believe. But I do think, like you said, I think Burgos just overall is better and it's a safer grab. I just think it's safer.
And I also think it's just a testament to how much Dana respects both these fighters to put him on a main event, especially when the stakes are so high. Like these names aren't as big as the other people on the card, but Dana obviously sees something in both of these fighters that could bring out a show and for people to tune in. So, I mean, if obviously Big Uncle Dana's got a vision for him, then I think we should take that pretty seriously.
Yeah, I agree. Next fight, the next two I feel like are just so freaking hard to talk about. You got Rose Namajunas fighting Zhang Weili for the second time. Last time they fought was also on an Usman card when he fought Jorge Masvidal the second time. Rose Namajunas, former world champion, was fighting Zhang Weili, who was undefeated in the UFC, knocked her out first round head kick. So I'm gonna say the exact same thing I said for the first fight because I still want to stick to it. I like Rose due to the fact that she's fighting out of Onyx Gym in Colorado with Justin Gaethje and Usman, who are both fighting on the card, and they're both peaking right now. And as someone who's fought on a card with teammates and has wrestled in tournaments with my teammates, the hype and the preparation you have in your camp, knowing that they're there with you and they're going through what you're going and they're competing with you that night, there's just a chip on your shoulder, man. Like I can go to a fight camp and have someone I really like push me and they're there 3 times a week, 4 times a week, that's fine. But when I have someone that's Justin Gaethje or Usman doing their camp with me, fighting the same night, having their hype train with me, I just think I don't see Rose losing. On top of that, we've never seen Weili lose, so how do we know how she's going to bounce back? You know, and the crowd's going to be riding Rose. She's an American fighter. Weili's from China. I don't think she finishes her this time. I think it's a 5-round unanimous decision, but I think Rose takes it. I think Rose is a safe bet.
Yeah, I like her. I was actually surprised. I was looking at sports betting, and Rose is actually the underdog going into this fight, which I do not understand. I mean, you got to give the credit to Weili. I mean, she is a animal. I mean, the way she fought, even before Rose, like she is a murderer. She will come out there and beat you to the ground. And I just think Rose is a better kickboxer. She's got the height, she's got the length, reach, anything you would want, especially in a striking matchup. The only way I see Whaley winning is she's got to close the gap. She's got to be the aggressor, get in Rose's face and get her on her heels. But Rose just does not fight like that. I do not think we're going to see Rose back down at all. I think she's going to stick to the game plan she had in the first fight. And I think even if she wouldn't have gotten the knockout in the first round, she was still going to stick it out and win it, albeit decision. But I want to stick with Rose. I'm really confident in her. I love her story, where she comes from. Got to root for her. Can't go against it.
And what's really cool is
going back to the odds, my bad, let me just chime in here. Going back to the odds and betting for fights, that's why it's my favorite sport to bet on, like boxing or UFC, is just because the odds are so crazy. And you could get like some good bets in. So like you think some guys are favorited, but the line will change so much. And to the 100 listeners listening, take Grayson's picks because I've taken them in the past and I've made a lot of money. And obviously, I don't know crap about the UFC. I know like the top 5 guys. So to the 100 listeners listening, maybe more, take his picks, get rich.
Hell yeah, Meech. So the other thing I want to talk about, what Zach was saying with the Rose fight, her striking's beautiful. Everything about it's beautiful. The fans can be on her side. I just, dude, like, it's just so hard. Like, you watch something that's kind of awesome. If you go back and watch when she beat Joanna for the first time, Justin Gaethje, her training teammate, is fighting on the card, posted a video of him driving home from the fight, and he's just bawling his eyes out because he's like, she's the hardest. Usman and Gaethje said she's the hardest worker at the gym, hardest puncher at the gym. Like, the amount of praise she's getting from male fighters just to show, like, she's a dog. And on top of that, if you go back and watch, you can YouTube it. She has an interview with either Joe or Brett Okamoto or Ail Hawani, some high-end MMA journalist. And when she's in the cage, so before she fought Wei Li, she stepped away for a little bit. She considered retirement, and she took some time off for her mental. So it was the first like big fight for her for a while, and she's in the cage, like extra nervous. You know, like you haven't fought in so long, and she's in like they're announcing her and like doing her breakdown, and she's was going back and forth, walking back and forth, and she's saying to herself, "I'm the best in the world. I'm 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 the world champ. She's not better than me. I'm the best in the world." And she's saying this under her breath to herself while she walks. And she was like, I had to tell myself every single second that I was the best in the world. So even when I was scared and I couldn't think about it, I still knew I was the best in the world. And that's some shit that sends some chills down your spine, bro. That's some shit that gets you like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, that's some badass shit right there.
Do you think if you fought Rose or Wei Li, Grayson, you would win?
I think if I fought them in the octagon, I would destroy them on pure size and brute. I think if I sparred them in the gym, they would piece me apart technically.
That would be a great fight. I would love to see that. What about
so much bigger?
What's her name? Amanda Nunes.
I don't know. It's very complicated. That's
complicated. She would two-piece me and I'd cry.
Yeah. And that's why I think there's before we talk about the main event, that's another reason why people like wonder why girl MMA fighters make equivalent pay to guy MMA fighters. Because like there's no girls in the NBA that are gonna beat some really good college guys in basketball. You know, that's not gonna happen. There's women in MMA that would sleep some dudes in the street. Like there are women that would kill men. You know what I mean? Like that's why it's equivalent, because they're actually as good.
No, but WNBA players would scrape all of us in basketball.
Yeah, but they would, bro. But like, there's professional fighters that wouldn't beat Valentina and Amanda Nunes. You know what I mean?
You're saying you could?
I said I could beat Rose and the other ones. I'm saying the same size, same weight class. I'm way bigger than them.
Dude,
But also, like, they're bringing in revenue because they're knocking people out. I get that. But, like, I feel like when it comes to MMA, the skill level is much more equal than it is in basketball and soccer and softball and stuff.
I don't know about that, but whatever.
As someone that trains with girls and gets pieced in sparring by girls, I can say that confidently.
Yeah, I've been tapped out by multiple women. It is not fun.
Yeah, I can confidently say that.
Not fun.
Wow. She grabbed your balls after?
Nah, it was like kind of like
hot.
a headlock, and like you're kind of deciding whether you should like not get horny or not, so the blood doesn't rush to your head, and then like you just pass out, and it's okay.
All right, so the main event.
Probably got a pussy of steel, Amanda Nunes. She could just choke you the fuck out with that thing.
The main event, all the marbles, what everyone and their mom, including myself, has been geeking, fangirling, hyped up about, everyone in the whole world is excited for, is Kamara Usman versus Colby Covington 2. The biggest fight of the year. Two men that hate each other. Their first fight was electric. 5-round war until Colby broke his jaw. 2-2 going into the 5th round. Talking about two men that are going to go out there and scrap. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to get a lot of hate. I'm going to get a lot of not love, a lot of disagreement. But I'm taking Colby, unanimous decision, 5-round fight. I like Colby Covington taking the belt from Kamara Usman, the people's champion, America's champion, Colby Covington. You
Has
heard
to
it
do
here
with the
first.
American flags and shit, and talks all this shit and gets his ass beat all the time.
He doesn't get his ass beat all the time, so I don't know where you heard that from.
Dude,
But
I've seen him. He's like
Colby.
always trying to fight the best guys. This is the little bit I know. He's always trying to fight the best guys, and then he loses.
His only recent loss is Usman, and it was tied 2-2 going in the 5th.
Oh, I'm thinking of Cowboy Cerrone. I'm sorry.
Dude, Covington, first of all, we're going to act like you never said that. Second of all, Covington, when they fought the first time, both times when Covington rocked Usman, Usman faked an eye poke, and then Usman faked a groin strike. I do think Usman is one of the best I think he's the best welterweight champion ever outside of GSP. But I just think I think if Colby niches those little things, he's at a camp that's giving his full attention. His cardio's great. He doesn't get his jaw broken. He focuses on the fight. I think Colby can take it from him. I just think he's the perfect mismatch for Usman.
Last 2-3 fights Usman's had, I've gone against him every single time, and every time that man has walked away, left me in shock. Like the way the man has progressed throughout his fighting career. Like when he came in, he was just a dominant force on the ground, and now we see through his last fight, the man can bang on his hands. Like the man will fight you standing up, and I think he's grown so much of a fighter compared as to when the last time he fought Colby. I think Colby got him. I think in the last fight, Colby had a game plan that was working against Kamaru, and obviously some things went down and left some speculation in the air, but Kamaru did break the man's jaw. Like he rocked that man. So this time around, we've said it before, wouldn't be surprised if Colby walked away at the end of the night a champ, but I've got to put respect on this man's name. I mean, he is the champ for a reason. He's defended it long enough for me to give him his respect. I got to roll with the champ. I hope Colby will put on a show. I hope he shows that he still got it, but there is nothing that will ever make me switch my choice off Kamaru. That man has earned it. He's got my respect. I've got to roll with him.
And real quick before we move on to the pod, politics aside of what you think about Colby, if you like him, if you're not, you cannot argue the man's a world class fighter. And also, guys, it's all fake. Everything he says, it's fake. He's a WWE guy, man. He wants you to be pissed off. He wants you to hate him because that gets him more likes. It gets him more money. Okay? I've met multiple people that have met him. I've met people that have trained with him. They've said he's an awesome human being. All right, guys, we're in the entertainment business. You got to have entertain. You got to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Moving on.
I think that's another big thing that a lot of people don't discuss is like, you're not only a fighter, you are an entertainer. It is your responsibility for getting people to watch your fights. It is your responsibility to have people tune in, your endorsement deals, getting views, getting recognition.
Pay-per-view sales.
You can have all the talent in the world, but if you do not express to the world what your talents are and how you can utilize them, no one's going to give a shit about you. You've got to, I think the only expectations we'll see out of that is if your fighting is just groundbreaking like we saw out of Khabib.
Yeah, but even Khabib took forever to get to his title shot in his eye.
Exactly. So if it wasn't for his unrelenting talent and just being a absolute phenom in the cage, he probably wouldn't be as big as he is right now if it wasn't for that. Colby's literally just proving that it's an entertainment business at the end of the day. Like, I'm pretty sure early in his career, he was getting threatened of being cut. So you know what he did? He went out that next fight and literally talked the most shit he possibly could about his opponent. And no one really knew who Colby was, but at the end of the day, they walked away knowing they're like, this guy talks a lot of shit. But hey, whether you like him, whether you hate him, his name is still in your mouth. You are still giving him views, the popularity he is getting in main headline segments to be talked about, whether it's good or bad. And at the end of the day, from Leonardo DiCaprio himself, there is no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah,
Does not exist.
even if you hate him, you're buying his pay-per-view to watch him get knocked out.
For the record, Cowboy, Colby, 2 C's. I don't know. I won't talk UFC ever again.
No, you're all good, man. Moving on. MLB. Atlanta Braves defeat the Houston Astros in Game 6. Some crazy stuff. I'm going to let Zach, Zach and Meech know a little more about the baseball aspect than I do, but some crazy things I want to break down before I let them give them the rock. The Braves were 44-45 at the All-Star break. Only the second team ever to win the World Series after having a losing record at the All-Star break. They were 52-55 on August 1st. They were 5 games behind in the division. They lost 3 All-Stars midseason. They put together a whole new outfield at the trade deadline, and they finished with the 12th best regular season record in baseball, and they are the champions.
Yeah. What the Atlanta Braves did with what they had at the time is completely remarkable. First, you lose your star player in Ronald Acuna, who's literally the face of the franchise and one of the best players in the major league. You go from losing him, and your first move in the main office is to create him in the aggregate. So they're trying to make up for what they lost from him statistically. If you guys ever seen the movie Moneyball, this is exactly what this is about. They went out and got guys like Jock Peterson from the Cubs. They went out and got Jorge Soler from the Kansas City Royals, and they went out and got Adam Duvall. None of these 3 guys alone were ever going to amount what Ronald Acuna could do for your baseball team. But the fact that you can come together at the right time and in the right way to pull through for your team, that is how you win postseason baseball. What's going to win you 100 games in the regular season is not what's going to win you in a 7-game series at the end of the year. It's just not going to happen. You've got to be playing hot baseball. You've got to be able to hit with runners in scoring position with 2 outs. You got to do all the clutch things that matter. Statistics, the reason why they play 162 games in a baseball season is only because they need to fill out a stat sheet enough so that they know what money they're getting at the end of their contract. We saw in a 60-game season that the best teams still made the playoffs. So we can do it with a shorter season. But the reason why you have these such long seasons is to play for the chance. So at the end of the year, you can make it and win it all. But it all comes down to how well you're playing. The Braves just had it put together at the end. And even with all their injuries, even with being having a losing record going into the All-Star break, being 5 games back in the division, they were still able to come out of that. And even though, this is crazy to think about, the Blue Jays were the 3rd-ranked team in the American League East alone. They didn't even make the playoffs. The Braves had 2 to 3 less wins than them and made the playoffs and won the World Series. The 107-win Giants, gone. They beat the 102-win Dodgers in the NLCS with players like Max Scherzer, Clayton, or I don't even know if Clayton was still in there, but Max Scherzer, Julio Urias, Corey Seager. Like, you had a team that literally on paper was an all-star team, and they went out and won that.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about baseball is I think it's probably the only sport that really any team, like seriously, any team can win on any given day. Like, I don't even know how to put it. Like, you'll see sometimes in spring training, mind you, it's spring training, but some like Division II colleges will beat MLB spring training roster guys. And, there's not many sports where that would happen. Like, if you're on the same level, playing in the same, professional, semi-pro guys, like those guys can go out and play a game. And, baseball is all about statistics and odds, and anything can happen if you get hot at the right time, just like the Braves did. They kind of remind me of the Cubs that went on that run in 2016. It's like similar. They picked up a couple guys towards the end of the year and went on a run. But, yeah, that's really all it takes. Like, the Dodgers year in and year out, they finally got one last year, but for many years there, they were always the best team on paper, even had the best record, and they would, choke in the playoffs. So, yeah, that's a cool thing about baseball is that really any team can show up and win it all.
And what's awesome about baseball is there's so many people that it takes to win a championship. It's not like LeBron carrying the Cavaliers to a championship or Tom Brady carrying the Bucks or like Usman sleeping Colby off of a good punch. Like, so many factors play into winning. And the thing is too is like there's no year in year out consistency with baseball. With baseball, it's not like look how good the Bucks were last year and they're returning all their players. You can have a team that was just your pitchers were hot one season, you were hitting everything, and the next season you have the exact same caliber guys, and they're just not feeling it. So that's why I think it's really cool to see something like this happen this year.
We have not seen a World Series team win a series and return back to the World Series in 11 years. It's been a different team win it for the last 11 years. I think the last team to do it was either the Philly or the Yankees in the 08-09 season. And what Roland was saying, I was at the game when the Phillies played a D2 team, the University of Tampa, in baseball, and the Phillies lost to a D2 team. Could you imagine if you rolled out North Dakota State to play, I don't know, the fucking practice squad of the Dolphins? They would get ran through like children. It wouldn't even be fun to watch. It would be like watching a middle school flag football team take on IMG. Like, it would be a joke. So that's what I love about baseball. It's just anything can happen. You can return the exact same roster and finish in last place compared to what you did the year before. I think the Red Sox in 2013, 2014, and 2015 went literally last place, won the World Series, last place, won the World Series. Like, that just, you're never going to get that. You're not going to have bounce back and player rotations like you do in any other sport. It just doesn't happen.
Still on the baseball note, Buster Posey retires. Legendary San Francisco Giant catcher, stepping away with a .302 at batting average, 158 home runs, 1,500 career hits, NL Rookie of the Year, MVP, and 3-time World Series champion. What do we think about this, guys?
You know, it's interesting. I was talking to my brother a little bit about this before we came on, and when you look at the stats, you really don't see from the stats alone that you would say this guy is a perennial Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. At least not for me, just with the average home runs and hits as a catcher. But for what Buster Posey has done defensively, despite only winning one Gold Glove, because he's had to compete against Yadier Molina, one of the greatest of all time. The man has done so much for not only his team, but for the sport of baseball, that you cannot leave this man out of the Hall of Fame. There's no possible shot this man gets left off a ballot. And if he does, then it is a huge disgrace for what we stand for, because there are so many players that go beyond just what happens on a diamond. And we've got to be able to recognize not only talent on the field, but off the field. And I think this is one of the greatest, and still could be, he could be one of the greatest ambassadors for the sport. I mean, his accolades alone out of college baseball at the University of Florida State, I mean, God tier, like above anyone else, one of the best college catchers we've ever seen. So with that being said, he's had a hell of a career. Hate to see him go out on a playoff loss like that, but he's done all he could for the sport. I love the guy. Wish him nothing but the best in retirement.
Yeah, this is crazy because I remember Buster Posey like as the phenom, like coming up to the leagues. And I'm looking at his stats. He's had 1,500 hits, 302 batting average, 158 home runs. I mean, he's a catcher, so it's not like those guys are known to be, Barry Bonds or anything. But, yeah, like he's had a long, consistent career. And, yeah, I'd say he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, you'd think so. His numbers aren't like jaw-dropping or anything, but he still batted 302 and had 1,500 hits. So, and played consistently. Like, he didn't miss games, really,
I think the only year he missed was the year. His injury is the reason you are no longer allowed to truck catchers at home plate, because
I knew that. That's right. Yeah, you're right. That one injury, I do remember that. But
yeah,
That's
what I'm saying. He's had a long career besides that one freak injury, and
exactly. And
got a
these are
ring.
things, he's 3 of them. And that's what we were talking about before the podcast, but I wanted to save the majority of the conversation for the podcast for this reason. Is like, yeah, on stats, he might not be a Hall of Famer. He might not be a Hall of Famer on stats. Yeah, but he's the kind of guy that when he was in the game, he was a general of the field. Like, the players would listen to him. When he was in the game, he had an impact. He could change the game. Regardless of the stats, his energy, the aura he brought, everything about him, his being a general, his being a leader, those are things that statistics can't track, but that a coach and a fan and human beings and other players can notice that is the deciding factor of a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, at least.
I mean,
Yeah, well said.
if there's any other thing I would say on the topic, it's there are so many sides to sports that stats will never be able to tell you unless you've seen the game yourself, unless you know what it's like playing it. You'll never be able to understand some of these players' impacts unless you hear it from other players themselves. And that's why I think a lot of the times we got to put a little bit more respect on what players do outside of statistics. We've got to see how they handle themselves off the field. There's a reason why we have awards for how players affect their community. I mean, I forget what the award's called in baseball, but they literally have an award in baseball that recognizes you for being the most outstanding person in your community. I believe in football, it's the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. I mean, you really get recognized for what you do off the field. And I think these stand testaments to who these people are, because once you become an athlete in a professional sports setting, you're not just an athlete. You're a role model to thousands or millions of people around the world. They're not just watching you for how you carry a football or how you shoot a basketball. They are literally watching you to see how you conduct yourself as a man, as a father, as a mother. Like, all these things are equally as important. So I think we have to pay a little bit more attention to what happens, not only on the field, but off the field as well.
But hey, man, listen up. Thanks, Zach, for coming on today, man. We really appreciate it. Big Meech, thank you per usual. Thank you to all of our listeners. Please check us out on Instagram. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Clocks on the stove.
TikTok
Over and
too.
out. Thank you, guys.